book with the physician D.N. Wells arguing that surrogate motherhood should be allowed and regulated by the state by establishing nonprofit, state surrogacy boards, which would ensure fairness between surrogate mothers and surrogacy-seeking parents. Singer and Wells endorsed both the payment of medical expenses endured by surrogate mothers and an extra, fair fee to compensate the surrogate mother. Religion. Singer at a Veritas Forum event at MIT in 2009. Singer was a speaker at the 2012 Global Atheist Convention. He has debated with Christians including John Lennox and Dinesh D'Souza. Singer has pointed to the problem of evil as an objection against the Christian conception of God. He stated, "The evidence of our own eyes makes it more plausible to believe that the world was not created by any God at all. If, however, we insist on believing in divine creation, we are forced to admit that the God who made the world cannot be all-powerful and all-good. He must be either evil or a bungler." In keeping with his considerations of non-human animals, Singer also takes issue with the original sin reply to the problem of evil, saying that animals also suffer from floods, fires, and droughts, and, since they are not descended from Adam and Eve, they cannot have inherited original sin. Medical intervention in the aging process. Singer supports the view that medical intervention into the aging process would do more to improve human life than research on therapies for specific chronic diseases in the developed world. He stated, "In developed countries, aging is the ultimate cause of 90% of all human deaths. Thus, treating aging is a form of preventive medicine for all of the diseases of old age. Moreover, even before aging leads to our death, it reduces our capacity to enjoy our lives and to contribute positively to the lives of others. So, instead of targeting specific diseases that are much more likely to occur when people have reached a certain age, wouldn't a better strategy be to try to forestall or repair the damage done to our bodies by the aging process?" Singer worries that, if we discover how to slow aging, we might have a world in which the poor majority must face death at a time when members of the rich minority are only a tenth of the way through their expected lifespans, thus risking that overcoming aging will increase the stock of injustice in the world. Singer cautiously highlights that as with other medical developments, they would reach the more economically disadvantaged over time once developed, whereas they can never do so if they are not. As to the concern that longer lives might contribute to overpopulation, Singer notes that success in overcoming aging could itself delay or eliminate menopause, enabling women to have their first children much later than they can now, and thus slowing the birth rate. And also that technology may reduce the consequences of rising human populations by enabling more zero greenhouse gas energy sources. In 2012, Singer's department sponsored the Science and Ethics of Eliminating Aging seminar at Princeton. Protests. Singer lecturing in Porto Alegre, Brazil, in 2012. In 1989 and 1990, Singer's work was the subject of a number of protests in Germany. A course in ethics led by Hartmut Clement at the University of Duisburg, where the main text used was Singer's Practical Ethics, was, according to Singer, subjected to organized and repeated disruption by protesters objecting to the use of the book on the grounds that in one of its 10 chapters it advocates active euthanasia for severely disabled newborn infants. The protests led to the course being shut down. When Singer tried to speak during a lecture at Saarbrücken, he was interrupted by a group of protesters including advocates for disability rights. One of the protesters expressed that entering serious discussions would be a tactical error. The same year, Singer was invited to speak in Marburg at a European symposium on bioengineering, ethics and mental disability. The invitation was fiercely attacked by leading intellectuals and organizations in the German media, with an article in Der Spiegel comparing Singer's positions to Nazism. Eventually, the symposium was cancelled and Singer's invitation withdrawn. A lecture at the Zoological Institute of the University of Zurich was interrupted by two groups of protesters. The first group was a group of disabled people who staged a brief protest at the beginning of the lecture. They objected to inviting an advocate of euthanasia to speak. At the end of this protest, when Singer tried to address their concerns, a second group of protesters rose and began chanting "Singer raus! Singer raus!" When Singer attempted to respond, a protester jumped on stage and grabbed his glasses, and the host ended the lecture. Singer explains, "My views are not threatening to anyone, even minimally," and says that some groups play on the anxieties of those who hear only keywords that are understandably worrying if taken with any less than the full context of his belief system. 346 to 359. In 1991, Singer was due to speak along with R. M. Hare and Georg Megel at the 15th International Wittgenstein Symposium in Kirchberg-am-Wechsel, Austria. Singer has stated that threats were made to Adolf Hübner, then the president of the Austrian Ludwig Wittgenstein Society, that the conference would be disrupted if Singer and Megel were given a platform. Hübner proposed to the board of the society that Singer's invitation, as well as the invitations of a number of other speakers, be withdrawn. The society decided to cancel the symposium. In an article originally published in the New York Review of Books, Singer argued that the protests dramatically increased the amount of coverage he received, saying that, instead of a few hundred people hearing views at lectures in Marburg and Dortmund, several millions read about them or listened to them on television. Despite this, Singer argues that it has led to a difficult intellectual climate, with professors in Germany unable to teach courses on applied ethics and campaigns demanding the resignation of professors who invited Singer to speak. Recognition. Singer was elected a corresponding fellow of the Australian Academy of the Humanities in 1981. He was inducted into the United States Animal Rights Hall of Fame in 2000. In June 2012, Singer was appointed a Companion of the Order of Australia for eminent service to philosophy and bioethics as a leader of public debate and communicator of ideas in the areas of global poverty, animal welfare and the human condition. Singer received Philosophy Now's 2016 award for contributions in the fight against stupidity for his efforts to disturb the comfortable complacency with which many of us habitually ignore the desperate needs of others, particularly for this work, as it relates to the effective altruism movement. In 2018, Singer was cited in the book Rescuing Ladybugs by author and animal advocate Jennifer Skiff as a hero among heroes in the world, who, in arguing against speciesism, gave the modern world permission to believe what we innately know, that animals are sentient and that we have a moral obligation not to exploit or mistreat them. 132 The book states that Singer's moral philosophy on animal equality was sparked when he asked a fellow student at Oxford University a simple question about his eating habits. In 2021, Singer was awarded the $1 million Berggruen Prize and decided to give it away. He decided in particular to give half of the prize money to his foundation The Life You Can Save because, over the last 3 years, each dollar spent by it generated an average of $17 in donations for its recommended nonprofits. He added he has never taken money for personal use from the organization. Moreover, he plans to donate more than a third of the money to organizations combating intensive animal farming, and recommended as effective by animal charity evaluators. For 2022, Singer received the BBVA Foundation Frontiers of Knowledge Award in the category of Humanities and Social Sciences. Singer serves on the Executive Advisory Board of the World Minds Foundation, contributing to global ethical discussions on science, society, and responsibility. Personal life. Since 1968, Singer has been married to Renata Singer. They have 3 children, Ruth, a textile artist, Marion, a lawyer and youth arts specialist, and Esther, a linguist and teacher. Singer's wife is a novelist and author, and has collaborated on publications with her husband. Until 2021, she was president of the Kadima Jewish Cultural Center and National Library in Melbourne.